Hi everyone, hope you are doing well. In this video, we are going to learn CI/CD, that is continuous integration and continuous delivery. What does it mean? It means that whenever you push your code to GitHub, then the test cases should run and eventually the changes should be deployed to prod. Now, the push can be just to the master branch or main branch in today's world, or it could be to any other branch. And likewise, the test cases will run and eventually the code might be deployed to a prod or it can be deployed to some test environment as well. But you get the idea, right? That whenever you push a code, the changes should be deployed. For this, I'm going to use Azure today. But there are multiple options, not just Azure. There are multiple options like Google Cloud. There is one by Amazon, that is AWS. So we could use any of those. Let me just show you a bit about them. So if you see, there are three main players in the world of the cloud providers. One is Amazon, that is AWS, the other is Azure, and the third is Google Cloud. There are other smaller players as well, but these three occupy the major chunk in the world of the cloud computing. So you can ignore the number of years of age because I don't think this is the latest one. But the important point is that Amazon is the oldest one, and then we have Azure and Google Cloud. And that's why the Amazon has a majority of the share in the market. So if you are working for any company or if you're planning to switch or if any of your friends is working in some company, it is more likely that they would be working on Amazon compared to the Microsoft Azure. The pricing is almost similar, and all the features which are there in Amazon are there in Azure and likewise in Google Cloud. So since these are competitor and all of these have good engineers, so whatever one company builds, the other company also builds. So they keep on competing with each other and they have a very good feature sets in their ecosystem. Now let me do one thing. So we understood what exactly these things are. How do we create our account? So you can go to aws.amazon.com and you can create an account in AWS. It will be very simple. You can create on this complete sign up, or you will get an option of creating an account. You can actually go ahead and create the account. You get a lot of free stuff as well in all cases. You get the free stuff in Amazon, you get the free stuff in Azure, and you get the free stuff in Google Cloud as well. So you can check out them. So you can click on free stuff and you can try the things. Likewise in Google Cloud, you can go to console.cloud.google.com and you can sign up. And then you can actually learn about it. But what I'm going to do today is to actually go ahead and use Azure. So you can click on azure.microsoft.com and create your account. And you could use any of those. There is no such priority among the three. You could use any of those. But since I'm more comfortable in it and I have Azure credits and I have my subscription set up in Azure, so that's why I'm using Azure, but you can go ahead and use others as well. For this particular tutorial and for this particular bootcamp, you can assume that for today's session, you would need to spend around 50-60 rupees from you. If you are not able to create a free account, you can actually go ahead and create free account. But if you are not able to create a free account, then that's the expense you will get. And I think that should be okay for you. And for the whole tutorial, it might go up to like 200 rupees or so. So that's the expense you can assume, which might come as a part of your subscription. But I think that's a good cost to pay to learn the things. But you can try the free stuff as well. You can click on start free and you can try to see what you can get for free. You can get 12 months of free stuffs and you get a lot of things from the free trial as well. But many times there are limitations. So you can assume that there will be expense of around 200 rupees or so. Now we understood what exactly is AWS. We understood Google Cloud and we understood the free account in Azure. So these three things we are able to understand. We also understood the difference between the providers. Now, there is one more thing which I would want you to understand a bit. That is, what kind of offerings do these platforms provide? So there are three types of offerings which are provided by all the cloud providers like Azure, AWS, or Google Cloud. One is infrastructure as a service, which means that they just provide you a virtual machine and then they say, we are done. Now it is your responsibility to set up stuffs. You have a VM with you, you download and install whatever you want. You download and install Java you want to install. You can set up databases you want. You set up whatever you want, and then it is your responsibility to take backups, make sure that the machine don't go shut down, make sure that the hard disk is not full, make sure that the security updates which comes for any operating system, be it Linux, be it Windows, those are updated. So that's all is your responsibility. This gives you more control because now the whole VM is with you and you can do whatever you want to. But then it comes with a challenge that it has lots of responsibilities, right? So that's the first thing where you have a lot of control, but you have a lot of responsibility as well. Somewhere in between is the platform as a service, where what these companies have done is that they have built a lot of common workflows. So a lot of common things, if you imagine, if you try to compare the various use cases which you build, most of the time it is straightforward, or you can say it falls into one of the templates or buckets. It could be you are building some REST API. It could be you are building some background processes or scheduled jobs. So you can, this one is the similar to the first one, but here what Azure people have done, or likewise other people have done, is that they have built some common use cases for you. For example, if you want to deploy your code, you have your code in GitHub and you want to deploy your master or main branch to production. So that's a very common use case. So why do you want to build on your own? So that use case is being solved by Azure. So that is called as Azure App Service. So you just give your GitHub code link and then they will deploy your code to production. That's the second thing. And here you will have other options as well, not just the code deployment, but many other features actually come in the Azure App Service. And the third one is a software as a service, where you don't care about the memory, you don't care about anything. You just go to a URL and use the software. So for example, Outlook. Whenever you use Outlook and whenever you send a mail to someone, you don't really care that what will be the load that will go for the backend, right? You just send a mail to your friend. So that's a software as a service. Most of the time as a developer, we work for the first one and the third one, the second one. These are the two umbrellas or the buckets we work for. You can actually go ahead and check this Medium interesting article. The person is, you can see the person, I see he has lots of followers. So much so that the full article needs to be, I mean, you have to subscribe to see the full stuff. But here, if you see, he has explained the same thing, that you have a infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. And the same thing which I talked about at a very uber or high level, right? So now we are done with the various types of offerings which Azure does. And now we are done with what we are planning to do. So let's start and talk about the first one, the infrastructure as a service. So what I'll do is that I'll explain you how the infrastructure as a service is set up so that you understand. And then we'll actually go ahead with the real life thing which happens on the production. So I have a VM with me. So what I've done is that I have set up a VM on Azure. Let me show you in the Azure portal itself. So how do you create the infrastructure as a service? You click on this create a resource. Let's create a resource here on Azure. You get an option of creating a virtual machine. So here you will not get an option that, hey, how do you create infrastructure as a service? How do you create a platform as a service? Those options you are not going to see. You are just going to see create a virtual machine, which is essentially an infrastructure as a service. Click on create. And then here it will ask you a bunch of details like what type of image you want. You can choose Linux, you can choose, you see a lot of options like Windows 10. You can choose the options which you want. And the pricing will be shown to you, like what's the price of the virtual machine which you need to pay. So you can choose the pricing whichever suits you better. Or generally for the development, you would want a heavier machine. But if you just want to run a jar file, you can have a cheaper machine. I'm not recommending you to create these machines, and don't bother about these prices. The thing is, if you shut down the machine, then the pricing will not come. So it's an hourly pricing. So per hour, I think it is less than $1 or around $1 per hour. So what I generally do is that I create a resource and then I shut down the resources religiously. So if you do that, you will be safe. You create some username. You can create whatever username you want to. You create some passwords. you open some port so that you can connect to the machine. You click on these, I confirm, and then you can also choose the amount of disk you need. The disk type is SSD or HDD. Based on that, you will pay the pricing. You can choose the networking, that what kind of networking you want. So you can open the inbound port of 3, which means that the people can do a remote desktop connection to the server. And then bunch of other options like, do you want to integrate bunch of things? But you can leave all these things as default. You can leave all these things as default here as well. And you don't need to set up anything here. You can have some tags, basically key value pairs. These key value pairs generally help you to have some categorization so that you can actually go ahead and search for the resources. You can do that. And eventually you can actually create a virtual machine for yourself. So the validation is missing because in the first page, I actually have not selected bunch of stuffs like machine name and all those things. You can choose these stuff. Likewise, in the networking, you can actually create a new virtual network, or you can basically, I would say just leave things by default. So when you do that and when you create a machine, I have already created a machine and it's a UI based stuff, right? So I would recommend that you go ahead and do those things for yourself. So here I have created a machine and this is the machine which I created. And it gives me the IP address and the username password I already configured in the previous pages, right? So I have the virtual machine. I can actually use the IP address and do a remote desktop connection, which is called as the RDP connection, right? So I have the machine with me here, and the way you connect to a remote desktop in Mac and Windows is different. I'll just show you how you do that in Windows. So in Windows, if you are running a Windows machine, you can open remote desktop connection app and you can put the IP address. And once you have the IP address, you can actually connect and it will ask you for the username and password. So as simple as that, right? So you are able to create a virtual machine, and if on that virtual machine, you can install whatever you want. So I've installed the whole dev environment, whatever tutorials I've been sharing till now. I was working on this virtual machine. Now what I can do is that I have this service running on my local. I can run this service on my local from here, and let's just wait for it to run and we'll open the local host 8080 from here. Okay. So let the service turn on. So you see the service is running on local. I can open the browser and I can go to local host Swagger. We can open the Swagger. How to set up Swagger, I have already talked in the previous video. So you see this particular thing is running. Now, if you see my service here, I have the public IP as well, right? If I go ahead and I replace the local host. So local host is something which will run only from that machine. It cannot run from other machine, right? So how do other people actually run the same thing? So for that, what we can do is that we can actually copy the IP address 98.70.77.9. So let's 98.70. So it's trying to open the same URL. Let's just wait. Meanwhile, I'll just show you a few things here. If we go to the network setting in our virtual machine, and we'll see the settings for this virtual machine here. As of now, you see nothing is opening, right? So basically it's not able to find the endpoint. That's why it's not able to open. So let's just wait a little. And here we'll go to the network settings section. You see the only port which we have allowed is 3389. We have not allowed the 8080 port. So that's why it's not working. You see, it's not able to access the endpoint. So now what we'll do is that we can create an inbound port. For that, what we need to do is to just click on create an inbound port here. And here we'll give the 8080. It's already there. And we'll just click on add. So basically we are just allowing that port number 8080 should be allowed to enter the machine. So if port number 8080 is allowed, then the client can access the server. So you have to do those network settings from the browser itself. You don't have to log into the VM. You just make the setting here and the changes will be reflected for the VM directly. So I have made that changes and you can see the security rule is added. Now I'll go back to the VM and I'll reload this endpoint. Let's see what happens. You see this endpoint is working now. I can actually copy this stuff and then I can go to my personal laptop and open the endpoint. So you see this is opening from here as well. So now this IP address and port I can share to my customers. I can share to everyone and they can use it. And all those things will be configured in this particular virtual machine. The only downside is that now I have to maintain this virtual machine, right? This machine can go shut down. I have to maintain the security updates. So, Windows security updates, right? So all those things I have to do by myself, basically go to the settings and update it. That is called as patching. So I have to do all those things by myself. You see, Windows update, attention needed. So those things I have to do, and which becomes a little bit tiresome at times. And if it, God forbid, if it is a database, right? And database gets crashed, then you will lose everything. So what Azure has done, Azure said that, hey, it's a very repeated process. You go to a machine and you do a bunch of things and then you launch Java project. It's a very repeated project. We are doing something for you and you use that. So now let's talk about the second option, which is how do we configure the app service, which is platform as a service. So I'll go to the Azure portal again. Let me reload it for you so that things are fresh here. And here I'll create a resource. Again, here you will nowhere see something like platform as a service. You will just see create a web app. So create a web app, we'll click on create here. And here we'll use a resource group as a tutorial, I think. You can use anything you want to, and we will have e-commerce. Let's see. Anubhav. All right, this is available. I use Java 17 because I configured Java 17 in my project as well. So I'll use Java 17. I'll use Java embedded web service, which means that, remember, whenever I'm running my project, it's not asking me to have a separate Tomcat downloaded. Everything is happening embedded. We see the embedded word. So the server is embedded and we don't have to have a separate server here. So that's why the embedded option. But many times people have a WAR file and then they put in the Tomcat. So that's a second approach. But this one is most common, what we are working upon, where we don't have to download and set up Tomcat. So that's what we are choosing. We'll use Linux because Java is platform independent and Linux means that it will save us the costing as well. So we'll use the region as something in India. Let's see if we have option for India somewhere. I think the South India should work because I'm in Bangalore. So we'll choose South India and let's choose a pricing plan as the cheapest one. So it's the free one I'll choose because why not? It's a demo. I'll click on next. I don't want any database here. You see right now the continuous deployment is disabled because this is enabled for the paid options. So right now I'm starting with the free one. So that should be okay. Later I'll set up the continuous deployment. I'll click on networking. Here the public access will be enabled. Monitoring is fine. I mean, whatever is default, I don't want to change anything here. I don't want any tags. It's a free option, Java 17. That's what we have. And it's configured for South India. So let's just click on create and let's wait for the deployment to be completed. Now we can see that the deployment is done. And what we'll do is that we'll click on go to resources where the deployment was done. Here we'll click on the deployment center and then we'll choose the source code. So we need to deploy things from GitHub. So we'll choose GitHub. The organization which I want to choose is AN Shriva. It can actually change based on the user. And here in the repository, it is e-commerce backend. So I'll just click on the drop down and I'll choose the repository. And the branch name is the only branch which is available, which is the main branch. I click on add workflow. Basically, I would want to add the workflow here. And then I can click on save so that the deployment can get triggered. So I have saved the deployment so that the deployment can start and basically the deployment should get triggered. So you can see it's showing that they're setting up the deployment. Now what I can do is that I can go to the GitHub to show you a bunch of other things. So I'll go to github.com And we have this project, e-commerce backend, which was pushed to GitHub. So here now you see something like this pending. So a workflow got added. I'll click on this workflow, click on details. So you have two workflows added. One I was trying out the other time, but this is the one, the latest one. So you might just see one option. So we'll click on this workflow and you can see all the things are happening here. So there are multiple things which are happening here. Let me scroll it up so that you can see it fully. So you see building with Maven and then uploading the build output, and then basically the build will get completed and then the deployment will get triggered. So now you see build is completed, basically converting the project to a jar file and then the deployment path. So here the deployment is happening. So two things, building and the deployment, which are happening here so that the code can be deployed to the e-commerce backend stuff, which is this service. So we need to wait a bit for the deployment to finish. You see the deployment getting triggered and a bunch of deployment logs. So we would need to wait for this thing to succeed. Basically, it is showing as in progress. You can ignore the previous one. Basically, my recording got stuck in between. So this one you can ignore. Basically, there are two entries. One is for the build and the other is for the deploy. So these two were the other entries. But yeah, this one, the latest one, is the one for the build and the deployment being in progress. Here you see the deployment is in progress in the GitHub, as well as you can see the same in the Azure portal. So we'll just wait a bit and we'll keep on pressing refresh. You see two entries get added. One is for build and the other is app logs. So you don't have to worry much about these two. You just wait for the deployment to succeed. So we are just waiting for the deployment to get succeeded here. In the GitHub, it has started to show as success, but here we are still waiting for the success to come up. Once this comes up as success, it takes, I think, around a minute to get succeeded. Then we can click on overview, and here it will start to show up as the endpoint which we need to hit. So we'll just wait a little bit more for the deployment to finish here. So it shows as success in both the places, here and here, at around 4 p.m. So this one is the latest one where it's showing everything as success. I'll click on overview and I'll reload the page so that you can see the latest stuff. Let me reload everything. So you see things are successful. Number one, here you see the latest deployment at 4 p.m. And also the things are successful here in the GitHub as well. The deployment being successful. And this is my code base. This is the point. Now I can click on this endpoint and open the website and let's see how it shows up. So I'll open the Swagger endpoint, that how it looks like. So you see it is getting opened. So this is my publicly available endpoint, which will be available for the customers. So you saw earlier that we were able to run things on local using localhost 8080. Then we gave the IP address of our VM and we can still access the same thing. The only challenge with this approach is that we would need to maintain the VM. We need to make sure that the VM doesn't go down. And the third approach was using the GitHub code base. Basically, we give the endpoint of this GitHub, and using the pipeline concept of Azure, whenever a new code change happens in this particular branch, automatically the changes will be deployed here. So this is a common workflow. So it's already handled by Azure, and that's how the Azure handles it. So all the things can work from here as well. You can actually do a health check. You can do health check / item, all those things which we did earlier. So yeah, basically 3 different ways to handle everything. One is local. Of course, you can't do anything with the local, right? It's only for the testing on your local machine. The second is you procure a virtual machine from Azure or AWS or Google Cloud, and then you share the publicly available IP address of that machine, or you can add the DNS entry and you share with the customer. The third one is the most popular one, where you use the power of Azure. So what is the good thing here? The good thing here is that you can actually scale up as well. So if there are more number of people who are coming and visiting your website, so in those cases, you can change the capacity of the machine where the things are running. You can just choose things. And also you don't need to worry about downtime. So let's say if you change the configuration of a regular virtual machine, in many cases, it will be able to handle the scale up without restarting a VM, but at times it might need the restart of a VM. But if you are giving or delegating everything to Azure, so Azure will take care of the scale up approach and you don't have to worry much. So many things can be configured from here. You see quota, backups, certificates. A lot of things can be configured directly here and you don't have to worry yourself. Likewise, you can check the logs as well from here. So bunch of things are configurable here and you are getting a very good endpoints as well. So yeah, I think I was clear with the approach and overall what we learned today. I hope this video was helpful. I hope that you were able to understand how to set up the code base and how to deploy everything end to end. This video would be helpful for you while you are trying to understand the overall flow. So that's it from my side for this video. Till the next time. Bye.